Now I know I already made a video about being tired of the Minions, but something very funny has recently come up. As in recently, the film known as Minions and Monsters just dropped, and it did something really surprising. Critics actually giving it positive reviews, making it one of the highest scoring Minions movies since the original Despicable Me. And this is one of the most shocking things to ever exist in any film franchise. These films are known not for quality storytelling, a point I literally just made in my last video, yet this one somehow got the highest critic score for any film in the franchise, especially for Illumination. But here's the funny part about this. On the same time, the audience reaction is actually more mid. Not that it's bad, they actually do like it a bit. Minions hardly need anything to impress general audiences, but it's not as well received as the previous films were by kids and families. For example, this film got an A- cinema score. That's decent by any movie standards, but it's the lowest in the franchise since Despicable Me 3, which was notably the weakest entry by many people's standards. Even the previous two Minions films, Rise of Gru and the first Minions, scored higher with crowds. And this is one of the most shocking twists you'll ever see in cinema, and it has nothing to do with a plot device, or maybe technically it does in some form. And the reason for this brings us to the subject matter of the film. It's set in the old age of Hollywood, the silent film era, and monster movies, where it's basically a love letter tribute to Hollywood itself. The film is full of references, where for the first time the Minions actually have a real story to follow, and it's not actually the regular crew we knew. Instead, for this one, we get fresh new faces like James and Henry from a different subset of Minions, separate from the main group that serves Gru in the main franchise. They go on this journey to make a film in Hollywood, become famous, but end up unleashing chaos that they have to stop. That's a bit of a generalization, but you get the point. The movie basically bases itself on the industry and the way films get made, where that referential time period treatment is where critics ate it up. And so many people that I normally see who despise the Minions as critics with a passion actually generally like this film, or you'd finally think at this point that hey, I guess they finally actually put effort into the story, that they did something that gives value to the characters and the world they built, and the Hollywood angle was a perfect opportunity that is agreeable for everyone involved. But I guess audiences disagree with that logic, which is exactly what I'm trying to explain today as to why this divide appears up. Now, the appeal of the Minions to audiences has always been straightforward, and that's exactly what I was criticizing in my last video being tired of. These yellow chaos agents don't need a deep story, complex characters, or anything that really drives the plot forward. That they just show up, cause absolute mayhem, spout gibberish, and deliver non-stop slapstick gags. That's the magic formula that kids eat up and families keep coming back for. It's brain-off entertainment at its finest, pure simple fun without any expectations. I don't personally agree that movies should be this low effort, but for Minions brand, that's kind of the beauty of it, or the downside depending on how you look at it. And that's why Minions and Monsters creates this weird disconnect, because by every reasonable measure, this is actually legitimately a good film for its type. It has heart, better structure, creative references, and actual storytelling ambition than anything in the franchise. The Hollywood setting and meta angle gives the Minions a real journey with purpose, and critics picked up and rewarded that, but for a huge chunk of the regular audience, especially parents and kids who just want more of the same, this is not really what they signed up for. They don't necessarily want Minions to grow or star in a clever tribute to cinema, they want that familiar no strings attached ridiculousness that they come to expect. So even though this might be the best made Minions movie, it ends up feeling off-brand to the people who made a billion-dollar machine in the first place. And this is the irony we have to unpack. And what critics really latched onto with Minions and Monsters is the same exact thing I've been asking for in these movies for years. There's an actual story here. The Minions get swept up in the world of filmmaking, chasing their dream of making a monster movie. It's packed with references to the greats of silent era like Chaplin, Keaton, and Lloyd, and the whole transition to talkies. It feels like a genuine tribute to Hollywood's golden age, and Pierre Coffin, the man who voices the Minions himself, directed it with real affection and creativity. And for once, the yellow guys do have purpose and arcs that resembles actual storytelling. But here's the real big problem. That's not what the Minions franchise was ever built on. This series was always pure nonsense, banana level chaos, zero stakes, and just non-stop gibberish. Don't get me wrong, it's awesome that they tried something more ambitious this time and delivered a real love letter to cinema, but the core value of Minions has always been silly, shallow, and profoundly stupid. Sophisticated meta commentary on the golden age of Hollywood is almost exactly the opposite of what built the empire. It's basically the inverse of what happened with the Super Mario Bros. Movie. That one was pretty shallow and video game simple, which audiences loved, but critics mostly hated. Here, it's flipped. The Minions finally gave something smarter and more cinematic, and critics are rewarding it, while a lot of the regular crowd is feeling that it's not quite the same Minions that they showed up for. Different people walk into different movies with totally different expectations, and that mismatch is why exactly landed at the A- cinema score. It's not bad, but it's also not the familiar characters or the exact tone that audiences come to expect. Again, this This score is the same as Despicable Me 3, which is the most hated of the franchise. New minions here like Henry and James instead of the classic trio with a more story-driven plot all adds up for something good on paper, but maybe feels a little off-brandish for the people who just want maximum banana chaos. But look here, the film will still make a ton of money. The minions always do. Even with the softer audience reaction, the brand is just too strong. The opening is still great, where we're talking about probably up to $80 million for the 5-day holiday frame. That's nothing to sneeze at, especially with the $85 million budget, but it's notably weaker right now than previous installments like the Rise of Gru or the first Minions movie. And maybe like I said in my last video, some of it is straight Minions fatigue. I'm tired of them, and a lot of people still feel the same after so many entries. But I think the bigger issue is that it's not just really another Minions movie in the way audiences have come to expect. People are not getting that exact brand experience they've grown to love, and it's why it's not connecting quite as strong as usual. The formula that made the franchise a phenomenon was never about sophisticated tributes or deeper storytelling. So yeah, in some way it will be successful overall, but it's just not going to be as successful as what the Minions are supposed to be. And the bigger part of this core irony is the kids themselves, the core audience that actually drives these movies. A lot of them are probably finding Minions and Monsters a bit confusing in parts. They don't know anything about the golden age of Hollywood or get the deep cut references to the silent film stars, or anything that goes involving this filmmaking world, because that's not their world. They are more comfortable with the Minions just doing the absolute stupidest things possible because that's who they are. They aren't used to seeing Minions as creatures who suddenly go out and do passion projects or chase artistic dreams. That shift feels different from what they expect or hear Minions movie. It's not that it's bad. The kids and families aren't hating this film. In fact, most people seem to be enjoying the chaos and monster parts just fine, but it doesn't hit that sweet spot that they're used to. And that's actually pretty different from something like Toy Story or the Pixar films, which are built on passionate, heartfelt storytelling that kids can connect with on a deeper level. Kids can differentiate those between two sides of their entertainment pretty well because they expect something here, that they can easily sit through an emotional Pixar story and love it, but when it comes to Minions, they still favor the simple, brain-melting, silly side way more. So even though Minions and Monsters is a good movie with real effort behind it, a lot of the youngest viewers just don't feel like it's the Minions movie they wanted, or families overall. It's close, it's fun, but it's not quite the non-stop nonsense comfort food that they show up for. That's a big reason the audience scores are mostly mid, despite the critic love. Where when you finally attempt to do more, to give them a real story, you create something that feels generally good on one level, but kinda bad on another for what the franchise is. For the first half, the film nails the love letter to cinema, and the last half delivers the monster chaos. And sometimes doing less is what actually everyone wants. Just non-stop banana, the familiar chaos, and the brain-off nonsense that made them billion-dollar stars in the first place. It's the ultimate irony of fate. You build something that's proudly crappy or low effort in the storytelling department, and that's why people really want to show up, right until the moment you stop doing that and try to make something better. That's the weird trap I've just noticed here with Minions and Monsters. It might be the best reviewed one yet, but by trying to do that, it ends up connecting a little less with the crowd that made the yellow guys unstoppable. Whether that's a win for the franchise long term or just a funny little bump in the road, well, only time and the sequel will tell, but it could be the perfect Minions twist. I'm all done. Banana.